I respectfully acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, the world's oldest educators and the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was recorded, Darkin Jung Country, surrounded by the beautiful Booty National Park, Brisbane Water and Putty Beach. The land we learn, teach, play and walk upon always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Teaching is one of the most rewarding vocations, yet great teachers are burning out and leaving the classroom in record numbers. Welcome to the PDHPE and CAFS podcast with your host, Kel Bell. This podcast empowers busy New South Wales teachers of PDHPE, CAFS and HMS to teach with confidence, clarity and ease. I understand the challenges of teaching because I've lived them. With more than 2 decades in education, I've journeyed from classroom teacher to becoming New South Wales' trusted voice in PDHPE, community and family studies and health and movement science. Together with leading experts and teachers just like you, we're here to help you reclaim your afternoons, weekends and holidays through practical resources, supportive memberships and powerful professional learning. Ready to reclaim your time? Access your classroom-ready PDHPE, CAFS and HMS tools at thelearnnet.com/tools. So grab a cup of tea or coffee and let's chat about creating impact in your classroom without burning out in the process. Hey everyone, and a huge welcome back to the PDHP and CAFS podcast. As you can see, we have a special guest with us today in our home studio. Pat Farmer is going to be our keynote speaker at our 2026 HMS Summit. So we're very excited for that. But a huge welcome to the podcast, Pat.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kelly. I'm looking forward to the event itself, but it's great to flesh out a few things right now.
Yeah, nice. So Pat is wildly experienced in the ultra marathon game, but he has a few little tricks up his sleeve. Can you give our listeners a little bit of a background as to your, I suppose, athlete journey, first of all?
Yeah, well, for me, I was the same as so many people back in my day, where you either, if you were with women, then you played netball. If you're a boy, you played football or cricket, and that was it. That was about it. That was the limit. Football was rugby league, where I grew up out in Western Sydney, and cricket was with a fence paling and a tennis ball, or sometimes even a rock if they couldn't find a tennis ball. So and over the fence it was 6 and out.
Yeah.
So. I didn't really have a lot to do with sport when I was actually at school, and it wasn't until I left school and I was inspired by Cliff Young in the Sydney to Melbourne ultramarathon, where I worked as a motor mechanic and he ran past where I worked, and I was just amazed at the fanfare around this incredible event that you didn't have to buy tickets for. You could stand outside the road and you could see, like a Tour de France or like a marathon. And consequently, I was just blown away by that, and I was blown away by the age of Cliffy and the other runners. Cliffy was 63 years old back in those days, when he won it, and he was an inspiration to a nation. That somebody could run 1,000 kilometres in what was considered in those days the toughest race on earth. It was day and night, night and day until you made it to Melbourne. And not only that, but take on the best in the world and win. So it opened up a whole lot of opportunities for so many people as a result.
Yeah. So listeners, like teachers, in the classroom now, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, probably like some in their 60s. This guy back, what was this, 19?
Yeah, it was back in the 80s, so early 1980s. Yeah. So it was, and, so I was 18 years old at the time. I was apprentice motor mechanic. And I just wanted more out of life than what I was getting underneath the car with grease and oil in my hair, skin off the edge of my knuckles, and a very small pay packet. Yep. And then all of a sudden I realised, the whole world's out there waiting for you if you're involved in sport. And it did open the world for me. I grew up in Granville, so the western suburbs of Sydney, and the furthest we ever went for a holiday was to the entrance on the Central Coast.
Which we're near here there.
Yeah, but and my father, couldn't dream of going to the places I've been to, and consequently, since then, since taking up sport as a career, I've been to Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, Palestine. I've been all around Australia, across Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, China, Japan, Germany, all through Europe, competing races up and down mountains, up and down buildings, across whole continents. I even ended up in the North Pole and the South Pole and everything else in between.
Yeah. So do you think like sport was a catalyst for you to just completely change your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was. It was, you know,
Yeah.
and it was nice to know that you didn't have to be part of the mainstream sports to achieve that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of your listeners will know and understand this, that once you get to a certain level in sport, it doesn't matter what the sport is, the mindset is the same. The mindset, you know, the hard work, the diligence, the trying to put in more than your competitors are doing as far as training is concerned, just trying to find that edge and trying to tweak all around the edges as far as your health, your nutrition, your mental approach to everything is concerned. That's what makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And that's a commonality at that elite level.
Do you think, like as a young person at school, like, you know, in your PE class, could you see yourself like, I'm talented, it's coming natural to me? Or do you think that that moment as an 18-year-old, you're laughing?
I got to laugh when you say that. I got to laugh because, you know, I often get asked this question, do you have natural ability or did you have to work it?
Yeah.
I absolutely had to work at it. But the thing was, I didn't really know if I had natural ability in those stages because all of the events were short distance events.
Yeah.
Like the furthest we ever ran was the length of a footy field or the length of a cricket pitch. And that was it. We had a walkathon once where we walked 20 kilometres, but we had all day to do it up the Blue Mountains. We had all day to do it and it was just a picnic really.
Yeah.
But so I didn't really know that I had the potential for longer distance. And once again, you know, as many people know and understand, we have fast twitch fibers, we have slow twitch fibers. Some people are better suited to long distance than others are suited to short distance. So there's a lot of factors that play into all of that. These days, thank goodness, schools have got so much of a variety. And not only schools, but, you know, I sat on the Australian Sports Commission board for the past 9 years, from basically 2001 through to, 2010 through to 2019. The thing about that was I saw sport evolve because we ended up with triathlon in the Olympics. We ended up with skateboarding in the Olympics, surfing in the Olympics. We ended up with rock climbing in the Olympics.
But no netball. Netball hasn't made it yet, which surprises me.
Well, one of the things that you need to know and understand as far as that's concerned is as soon as America gets good at netball, it will end up in there. America, just because of their sheer wealth, they are a big player and a big determination in what sports get in there and which ones don't. And it was only because America was so good as far as triathlon was concerned that triathlon ended up into the Olympics as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of like teachers who are PE teachers, who is probably the majority of our listeners, but even primary school teachers who are teaching PE, have this idea that, you know, what they're doing is preparing their students to become athletes. And I think certainly, like we've been saying, it's not about that. We actually want people, like all Australians, to love sport, to move their body, to, you know, be into their 60s and 70s still being okay to function. And I think, like, I love the way that sport has evolved in Australia. It's competitive, it's commercialized, there's so much technology around it. But I think part of it is also going, you know, not everyone wants that, and that's okay. Like we're not all going to be competitive. And I'm like someone who's very competitive.
Yeah. I have noticed that at the gym. But see, that's an interesting point because I came into ultra marathon running and I was considered as the youngest in my sport back in the day. So, I was 18 when I qualified for the Sydney to Melbourne race. We're talking about, you know, everybody, not everybody, to a lot of people, the pinnacle is the marathon, 42 kilometres. To me, it was multi-day races where you would do 100 kilometers a day every day for a week, or you would do 24-hour races where you would clock up 200 Ks plus, or 48-hour races, or 6-day races, or even I even did broke the world record for 1,000 miles, which is ludicrous.
How many Ks is
That was back in the day. So that's 1,600 kilometers.
Wow.
1,000 miles. So some serious running, and it had to be done around a 400-meter track.
What the hell?
For it to be verified. And so myself, Tony Rafferty, another guy, Dave Taylor, the three of us ran around this track for like 2 weeks. Rain, hail, all sorts of weather conditions.
God.
We wore a groove in the track. Just to get the job done.
Yeah.
But, once again, so that's sort of taken it to the extreme. But the other side of the coin is a lot of people say to me, well, Pat, you've done all these things in the past. Why are you still working out in the gym, or why are you still, working so hard to stay fit and healthy?
Yeah.
And I said, because to me, it's about quality of life. I've just become a grandfather, and I want to be able to take my grandchildren to places like Kilimanjaro, to walk them up the mountains, show them the pyramids of Egypt, show them places that you can only see if you are prepared to scale a mountain, walk up a hill, walk a track, see what's on the other side of those rocks, or what's around the cove of that beach, and those sorts of things. So it's more about having an inquisitive mind, and then the ability to back it up. And that's the way I see everything. So I always want to know what's on the other side of the hill.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think like my dad is very similar to you. And so I think I get a lot of my both competitiveness, but also love of moving and just bettering myself from my dad. And Dad's 70 this year, and we recently did the marathon together, as, I've shared with you. To see Dad, who's almost 70, still like pushing his limits, still setting goals, still training every day. And he didn't really start. Like he played rugby league, rugby union, liked running, but was never really, a keen runner. For him to be inspired by me when I started, I took up running when our girls were young, and always love running, sprinting, but never really super long distance or anything like that. But just watching Dad still say, I want to do this, or like my pace. I'm like, Dad, it's so good to see. I think he's the extreme as well. Like, he's still very competitive, but even what we do in schools is not necessarily like that. It's actually just seeing the world, moving your body, being able to get out of bed and not have to use like a walking stick or, a wheelchair or a scooter. Like, it's just that everyday movement, I think, that most of us probably aspire to.
Oh, exactly. Like Kelly, I've run around Australia twice. Once for the Centenary Federation. I finished that in the year 2000 to lead up the Centenary Federation, 2001. I was sent off by the Prime Minister at the time, John Howard, and I ran around Australia from Canberra right around and then back into Sydney and then back down to Canberra. And then, I ran it again just recently for The Voice. When I say recently, 2017. Recently, 3 years ago now, for The Voice. And on both those occasions, the thing that stuck out in my mind was I had a message I wanted to sell. How can I best sell it? How can I best get that message out there? And it was by simply putting one foot in front of the other, not incredibly fast, not incredibly fancy or eloquent, but just getting the job done. So I take on these enormous tasks and I just break them down into bite-sized pieces and I achieve it. And through that, you tend to inspire people. And the thing I love about running is you just need a pair of shoes. And in a lot of cases, if you're running on soft sand, you don't even need that. But you just get out there and you can just do it. So you don't need a whole lot of equipment. So I've arrived in all different parts of the world and just gone for a run and seen things that I wouldn't see if I was on a bus or public transport, or if I was being shown around. You get to see the back blocks, so you get to see the way people really live.
Yeah.
And it's that rawness that I love the most about that sport.
Yeah.
And also the marathon it's not a race against somebody else. It's a race against yourself always, because it is you that decides, I can't go any further, I have to slow down. It's you that decides, I can go further, I can go faster, I can do this. And so it's all comes down to your mental approach to everything. And at the end of the day, I spent a lot of time at the Institute of Sport as well, and they've really dived into the need for athletes to be well prepared. And it's not just athletes to be well prepared. We should all be well prepared to be able to deal with stress, to be able to deal with anxiety. An Olympic athlete would train for 4 years for an event, and if they've got this build-up of anxiety in their bodies about the event that they're about to participate in, whether it's diving off the top of a tower or riding a skateboard or, doing whatever it is that they've got to do, they could have done it a million times in training over the past 4 years. And then comes this one moment where they've just got a few seconds to get it right, and they blow it.
Yeah.
And all because they just didn't have their head in the right space. Yeah. And one of the things I've noticed is, and we introduced this when I was on the Sports Commission board, was the Australian Army are sending some of their elite soldiers in to speak to some of our elite athletes. And the reason why they're doing that is they're saying in the predicaments that they are in a war situation, they can't afford to be nervous. They can't afford to be anxious. They have to be cool and calm under pressure. And that's the sign of a great athlete.
Yeah. And I think, especially for our health and movement science teachers, it's part of the syllabus. Like it has been for a long time, but the syllabus changed. There is a big section on mental rehearsal, which has kind of already been in there before, but that psychological, like the strategies that athletes take on to enhance their performance. I think that's probably the secret that a lot of people really don't realize. Like your body will get you there, but your head is the one who finishes it. Like
exactly.
And like I know I felt that during my marathon, which was just over a month ago, that my body got to a point at about 28 k's. My glutes were like, oh my God, like this is Kel, what are you doing? It started to I didn't feel like I seized up, but I just couldn't run. Like it was like a bit of a wall. Yeah. And they talk about the 32k wall. I reckon I hit it a bit earlier. But I was like, I have a job to do. I need to finish it. And then I got to about the 32k mark and I thought, Kel, it's 2 lots of 5 and then a 2k at the end, like breaking it down into those kind of like little tiny bite-sized pieces. A 5k run's a piece of cake, like what was, for me during training was a piece of cake. Like I've got 2 of those plus a 2k. The 2k, you'll just be near the finish line and you'll finish, like you'll be okay. So I felt good from the 32 to the end, but it was like that 28k. I was like, oh God, my glutes, if I keep going, I feel like I'm going to snap something. But I don't know, your head just takes over. And I think for me, I kept going back to if I can give birth twice without any drugs, like surely I can finish a marathon.
Exactly right. But it's that visualization.
It was.
It's that visualization.
Yeah.
See, I was in America. I was in South America. I was running from the top of the world down to the bottom of the world, North Pole to South Pole, and I was coming down through all these South American countries. And the thing that kept me alive and kept me going was the fact that I was thinking, whereabouts in Australia would I be right now?
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was incredible when I saw the Southern Cross in the sky finally. And even though I was still thousands of kilometers away from the finish line, I felt like I was in familiar territory. And so this is why we rehearse. This is why we train, is to get familiar with all the things that are about to happen and that are unfolding before our eyes and how to deal with it. I love the term when so many trainers, and I'll see a lot of PE teachers and they'll say to the kids, just have fun. Yeah. What they're really saying by just have fun is relax.
Yeah.
Don't get too carried away. There was a great Disney movie I watched when I was a kid called About the Mighty Ducks. This
I've got a funny story to tell about that in a second.
So, when they were able to just relax and get out there and muck around, have fun, that was when they were at their best.
Yeah.
So it's about taking away that pressure that you have on your shoulders.
Yeah, because you get in your head. Like,
exactly.
I'm no elite athlete. I've never represented our state or our country. Like, maybe as a mature age athlete, maybe. Like, I'm only 45 this year. But I know that if you get stuck in your head, game over. Like, you're kind of like, I think, shut down or just tell yourself you can't do it. But having fun and relaxing, how much more enjoyable is it, if you actually just chill out, trust yourself, I think is also
absolutely. And that's what a good coach can do.
Yeah.
That's what a great teacher can do for their students. That's how it all works. It's about being able to get inside that kid's head and say, okay, this is how we're going to go about this. I coached netball. I remember coaching netball many years ago, and we got the team through to win. They won the grand final. They almost went through undefeated, and I had never coached netball before in my life.
I
did
a
lot of things. No, only in training, with the girls themselves. But I was asked to train because I didn't have a coach, and I had a basic fundamental understanding of human movement.
Yeah.
And then I just took that principle and I adapted it to the sport.
Yeah.
And once again, got the girls to have fun. We did things a little bit different, and they were just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other point too, is there's a book of rules for every sport, and after a few years, everybody knows what the rules are. So instead of wasting a whole lot of time working on the rules that everybody knows how to play anyway, let's work on their strengths and their weaknesses and, bring it all back to that and say, okay, how can I make you as individual better, or you as individual part of a team, an important cog in this whole machine.
Yeah. Do you think, have you ever seen like at an elite level that play out, like where a coach or where a particular Australian athlete or, someone from across the globe has taken on that strategy, like more about the relax, have fun, let's do something a bit different to what other people are doing?
Well, I think to be honest with you, probably I've never sort of sat down with anyone and said, what we're trying to do there. We're just trying to just have fun because you just made it look so easy.
And they might not say that out loud.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
But the point is that elite athletes or somebody that's great at their sport, is good at their sport, they do make it look easy. Everybody's, watching from the sideline thinks, how can they possibly do that? Like I've just gotten recently involved with high rocks. And it's quite a new concept for me because it actually involves some pretty serious weights as well, and a lot of running under fatigue, under absolute fatigue. So I've been under fatigue in the past, but still using exactly the same muscle groups. And all of a sudden, I'm chopping and changing things around, and I've got to go back to that and still be competitive with it. But to watch the elites at that, they've got a smile on their face. They're doing it. They're enjoying it.
And you're thinking, oh my God, I just want to get through this workout.
How can they possibly do that? I'm working for every second, but it just comes with time and comes with practice, and and that's what it's all about. So, my biggest fear was always, I'm going to run an extra lap, or I'm going to run, I'm going to forget and run one lap too short before I go duck in to do a sled pull or a push or whatever's on. And so I was really stuck on the rules. So then once I got comfortable after I had done enough of these events to not worry about the rules, it took a lot of pressure off my shoulders. Yeah. So then I just need to work on the technique. Yeah. And so you're gradually getting better and better, and you're picking up on more of the smaller points until you get to the stage where you've got all the physical side of it sorted out. Now it's about being in the right headspace on the day.
All the little strategies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, because at that level, it is microseconds. It's split seconds. In fact, I remember once again when I was at the AIS, them talking about the problem with swimming, because the difference between first place and fourth place in a 400 meter, swim or a medley event, it's splits of a second. So, there's nothing in it as far as their physical ability. It's just being able to be just absolutely perfect on the day.
Yeah. Can we talk about your transition? Not transition because you're still running, but I think that's, you touched on it before about being able to, for sport to go, okay, well, I can do that, but I can then also transfer my skills to another sport. So you're probably like, people know you most for being an ultra marathon runner.
Yeah, sure.
Like, what would you say as that? What was your like highest like achievement, a goal as an ultra marathon runner?
Well, first
you
of all,
would say.
first of all, it's funny you say that, because even when I was a member of Parliament, which I was a number of years ago, they used to call me Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I can see that.
Here I was trying to be taken seriously and debate the issues of the day, and they're still calling me Forrest Gump and mucking around with the running. But such is politics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's really all about just having purpose, and having a goal to aim for. Like even in this transition across now, like I'd finished running around Australia for The Voice recently, and I got back and I was as skinny as a rake. And as everybody would know, The Voice, the yes vote failed, and the no vote got through. Now, that's just politics, and it's the way the whole question is framed, and there's so many aspects to it. That's the way it is. But I took it personally because I had run 14,500 kilometres around the whole country, and I was spruiking the message at community functions every single day, every single night. I was on a hiding to nothing because I couldn't get sponsorship because it was so controversial. I sold things of my own, cars and bits and pieces, to pay for it. And there was one stage where I even said to my wife, when I was up in Northern Territory, I said, look, I'm going to send the crew home. If it comes down to it, I'm just going to camp on the side of the road and just get this done on a day-by-day basis, because I just can't afford to keep anybody else here on the road. And that was when she packed up the dog and she got into the Subaru Outback and she drove up there and she crewed for me. And I had another great friend who had a camper van, and he came along with us. So there was basically the three of us and the dog, and we finished the second half of a 14,000 kilometre journey together like that, But once again, I had purpose in what I was doing. But when I got back, it was like a lot of our Olympic athletes used to go through years ago, where they would work so seriously about something and think of nothing else until they get to that point where the Olympics has been on. And then they might have won a gold medal or they might have lost. Either way, they go through this huge downer directly afterwards because, like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And so I went through that. And luckily, my nephew suggested to me, he's a personal trainer, he said to me, you're as skinny as a rake, you're getting older, you need to hang on to some muscle mass, otherwise you're not going to be able to lift a child, you're not going to be even able to walk upstairs. And he said to me, I don't want to come visiting you in a nursing home. And there was just the shock of that. I went from elite athlete through to looking at, my future all bundled up in the next 5 minutes. And that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to start at a gym and I'm going to try and put on some muscle mass. And as you can see, I'm still pretty skinny, but I am much stronger than I was. And I'm looking after my nutrition. I'm looking after my training regime. I'm training harder now than I ever have. And I've been able to take a lot of the concepts from past sports and the mental attitude from the ultramarathon running, and I've been able to dip into doing weights and doing it properly. And that's the thing. It's about learning all the new techniques in something completely new. And I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I'm loving the high rocks. I'm loving the CrossFit. Still having troubles doing toes to bar. But
I can't do it.
but I'm loving the challenge, and I think that's it. That's the key to everything. You need to continuously challenge yourself through every aspect of your life, through every date of your life, from when you're a young child all the way through to when you fall off the perch. And to be quite honest with you, just along those lines, I want to die doing something. I don't want to be lying around having people spoon feed me or changing my nappy. I want to. I want to be able to live a life
Yeah.
And that's the greatest gift that sport can give us. And it's one that's really underemphasized, but one that sports teachers, PE teachers have the ability to get through to kids and change their life forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, like absolute gold nugget. I think the bigger purpose for it is the key. And I think a lot of teachers, because this is all to our teachers, they lose sight of the purpose. And we spoke about this at our K-10 PDHP forum, and Libby Trickett, ex-Olympian, mother of 5. We kind of had a really a great conversation with her at the beginning of our 2-day event. And she said, I kind of lost purpose for a bit. Why was I doing the fun? She lost the fun out of it. Just that following that black line when she was swimming, she said, I lost the purpose for what I was really doing. And when I found that again, when I really realized why I was doing this, it completely changed, her career. Anyway, we then took that into the second day of our event. And for 40 minutes, every single teacher who was there was probably about 40 or so teachers, had a moment to share what their purpose was for teaching. Because I think you're in the grind, you're doing paperwork, it's a thankless task, you're, taking on the weight of the world, and it's what you're teaching, the admin, the mental health of our kids, all those issues come back on a teacher. And I, said to the teachers in the room, I think we sometimes lose sight of our purpose.
Yeah.
Even as a human, as a mum, as a dad, as a, someone who's working, just that purpose, that drive, I think in life is, you need it. You need something to aspire to. Otherwise, what the hell's the point?
Well, Kelly, my favourite T-shirt slogan is to be better today than I was yesterday.
That's nice.
It's as simple as that. So you don't have to win a gold medal. The kids that you're teaching, they don't have to be the world leaders. They don't have to be the best. They don't have to win every game. But if they're better than they were yesterday, just a little bit better all the time, you're doing your job. And that should be incredibly rewarding, because nobody can ask for more than that. We're all different. We come different shapes and sizes. We have different attitudes, different goals, we're, different environments and different experiences. But if we can just improve ourselves and work on ourselves and just be a little bit better tomorrow than we were today, and continue like that all the way through our lives, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I'm always challenging myself. I said to myself, after the marathon, a lot of people said to me, so what's next, Kel? I don't know. I don't know what's next for me. And I haven't ran consistently, for the last month. But I'm like, I signed up for High Rocks, and, my cousin asked me, who's now working with our team. She's like, oh, do you want to do the Melbourne relay with me and 2 of our friends? I said, yep, sounds good. I'm like, I'm not going all the way to Melbourne just for a 2K run and a couple of exercises. So I was dropping Lexi, our youngest, off at cheerleading, missed out on a ticket for solo open for women's. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do one of the charity tickets. Surely I can raise $500. If not, I'll just donate $500. I'll try my go at High Rocks, see what it's all about. And I don't know.
It's interesting that you say that as well, because I'm known for the money of it. I've raised literally millions of dollars for everything from Lifeline to Salvation Army to a girls' education in India. I ran the length of India for girls' education over there, from Kanyakumari all the way to Kashmir, almost 6,000 kilometres.
Wow.
I've raised literally millions of dollars. I've raced up and down Sydney Centre Point Tower, up and down the staircase inside there, the zigzags backwards and forwards, the emergency stairs in there, up and down, up and down, up and down for 24 hours.
Oh,
but
God.
I, raised $260,000 for ovarian cancer research.
Yeah.
So sometimes the purpose is not for yourself.
No.
But it's about putting yourself through pain and discomfort to ease the pain and the discomfort for somebody else. And when you think like that, you can do anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Our mind is the strongest muscle that we have, I think, in our body. I think sometimes when we set goals, they're not scary enough. I don't think I think a goal should scare you. And I know for me, I've lived in a bubble, grew up in Western Sydney as well, as you know, in the Hills District. I think I've lived a very sheltered life, to be honest. I always wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to make an impact on young people, my love of sport and health. I want them to have a great life, essentially, in a nutshell. But I'm 45 this year. I think I might be ready for some more challenging, experiences that are beyond me, beyond what I do. And I think, our work enables that. Like our work supporting, you know, thousands of teachers and then making an impact on their kids is part of the purpose. It's not about me. Like, but I think for myself also personally, I'm like, oh, you know, maybe I should get out there a bit more and, you know, challenge myself, because we can do whatever we want. Like, we are, you know, the masters of our own destiny. And I think a lot of people are just complacent and just go, oh, I'm just rolling with the punches and not particularly happy. Anyway.
Yeah. But you know, I love what you do, and the reason why I love what you do is because a lot of people think it's about the kids all the time, and you know, the kids are going through a tough patch, so the teachers have got to support the kids to be able to get through that. And it's the same. It's the same in business. What happens is you get these people that running companies or whatever, and they're very successful at doing what they do. And they've got a team underneath them, and they're all the time working with that team to bring out the best in that team so that they can achieve something great, and then the company benefits as a result of it. But there is very few organisations that are geared up to help that leadership mechanism that's part of the whole chain, whether it be the CEOs, whether it be the teachers. In your case, it's the teachers. And often the teachers are fumbling for the extra support, the extra, the extra help, the extra information that they need to be able to make a difference. And kids come in all sorts of shapes and sizes in all sorts of ways. And who knows what's going on in their family life back home. And so that teacher's got to be a psychologist. They've got to understand the kids in order to get the best out of the kids. But for them to do that, the teachers have got to drill down into their own self and rediscover something about them. So they need somebody to help them do that. And that's where you come into it all. And that's why I think, you know, being a mentor to the mentors is incredible.
Yeah, and look, I love it. Like I get up every day, and like I said, I'm 45, and I still love my work. And even though whatever happened at the school I was at, that happened for a reason. Like, for me to not be doing, you know, not to be actually in the classroom happened for a reason. But look, anyway, I think teachers are amazing. They have the most thankless job in the world. Dealing with teenagers, like the majority of them, and even like young kids who have, you know, some of our young kids these days have very complex issues and are going through a lot. And for teachers to show up every day and put a big smile on their face and get through, and I think be the glimmer of hope for a lot of kids, like teaching, like teachers deserve much more than what they get. And I don't know, like it's one of those jobs that I think we need so many people, you know, people who want to do it. And look, we're not going to talk about the teacher shortage. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, sure. But the network behind the teachers, supporting the teachers is incredibly important.
Yeah, I agree. So, Pat, to finish off, we always ask our guests, what would be a piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self? And any words for the younger Pat?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I still haven't grown up yet. I still keep thinking to myself, what am I going to do when I grow up? Because my life has changed and varied so much all the way along. But I think that in itself is something to reflect on. It's that I've had challenges and opportunities being presented to me through so many different parts of my life that I feel like I've already lived 5 lifetimes, 5 completely different lifetimes. But the only advice would be just to continue to roll with the punches, because this life, just when you think everything's going great, it'll throw you for a 6. And, you know, but the great thing about being an athlete or understanding how athletes work is that it happens to them. You know, a cyclist will get hit by a car on the road and go from the elite through to whether I'm ever going to walk again or not. And then the next thing you know, they're back up there in the elite again sometime because you can't break that spirit. You know, so long as that's intact, you can do anything. So for me, it would be to understand the power of my spirit. You know, I have this wonderful saying, and it's this, that there is no force on earth and none in hell greater than your will. If you want to do anything with all your heart, you can and you will find a way. If you don't truly want to do it, you'll simply find an excuse. So my message to literally everybody is figure out what it is that you want to do with your own life and remember, no excuses.
Love it. Nice way to finish, I think. Thanks, Pat.
This episode was brought to you by the K-6 Primary and 7 to 10 PDHP memberships, the CAFS Collective, and the Health and Movement Science membership. Our communities designed to support and empower busy teachers like you. Explore them along with a suite of helpful teaching tools at thelearnnet.com. If you've loved today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share with a colleague, take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at kellybell.coach. I love seeing what resonates with you. Make sure you subscribe to Apple Podcasts or Spotify to stay connected. And if you took even one thing away from today's chat, I'd be so grateful if you could please leave us a review. See you next week. Here's to finally reclaiming your time as a busy New South Wales teacher.